Out to the phone lines here. The Bud Light guest line, that is. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Chuck Cooperstein, the play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks. And the Mavericks right now rolling a bit. Beat the Pelicans last night, and the Pelicans surprisingly lost 10 in a row. That shows you how crazy the Western Conference has been. Chuck, good morning. Alan Stiles, Bonta Hill here on 95.7 The Game. Thank you so much for joining us as the Mavericks come to town tomorrow night. And you guys got some injuries here. Maxi Kleber going to be out. Christian Wood's going to be out. And then Luka Doncic last night with the right heel contusion. Can we expect to see Luka in the Bay Area tomorrow in a uniform?
Don't know. Don't know. Hope so.
Yeah.
And I certainly know ABC is hoping so.
No doubt about that. Luka's played out of his mind. 31 points last night in 23 minutes. He had 21 in the first quarter. He's an unbelievable player. The Mavericks right now fifth in the Western Conference. But as you take a step back from the Dallas Mavericks standpoint, the Western Conference, is it good that we have parity, or is it just one of the more mediocre conferences that we've seen in a long time in the NBA? The West is usually loaded, Chuck.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, last year was only the second time in 23 years that the West had lost the interconference battle with the East. I love the parity because I think that it makes every game important. It makes you think about every game. And even though I know, everybody's just still trying to load manage players, I still think it's a really dangerous thing to do. Because one day you could be in fifth place and the next day you could be in ninth. And that's no way to run a railroad as far as I'm concerned. But I like the uncertainty of it. At some point you have to believe somebody is going to find a 2-week heater and separate themselves. The Clippers, I thought were about to be that team until what happened last night in Milwaukee. I still think that when all of their guys are playing, they're the best team in the conference. But we'll just see. I mean, for the Mavericks were healthy early in the year. They lost a lot of games that they should have won. Lost to bad teams that were playing without their best players. And they're paying the price for that right now because now they've gone through a 6-week stint where they've not been healthy, and they're basically playing whack-a-mole. One guy gets healthy, another guy gets hurt.
Chuck, we talk about Luka Ball, and obviously we know Luka can ball, and he is turning into just a ridiculous player if he's not already one. But he does it all, right? And I don't know if it's because he has to or it's just how the team is structured. What do you think this team needs? Because it feels like you've added pieces, but Luka still does everything. Is it more about how the team is structured or just how Luka plays? What is this team missing to get over the hump?
Well, they miss having Jalen Brunson. I know that.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, he's a good player.
I mean, if they had Jalen Brunson, if they had taken care of business a year ago, I don't think we'd be having a lot of this discussion. I don't know that Luka would be averaging, nearly 35 a game, because there would be, another real scorer in their lineup. The issue though, to me, is not so much how Luka has played, or the fact even that Brunson is gone, even as good as Brunson is and was, because Spencer Dinwiddie has done a really good job of filling that role, albeit somewhat differently than how Brunson filled that role. They haven't filled Dinwiddie's role, haven't filled his scoring coming off the bench, haven't filled that third playmaker. They thought they had Frank Ntilikina, who could handle that, and he's not been able to handle that. And look, they need to be able to get some people who can rebound the ball. And even if Maxi Kleber comes back, and he's not going to be back tomorrow night, but he may be back on this trip that the Mavericks are embarking upon. He's never been a big rebounder. The Mavericks have been out-rebounded in 19 consecutive games.
Wow.
And they've been out-rebounded by an average of about 8.5 per game. And, when the Mavericks lost to the Warriors in the playoffs last year, Golden State just destroyed them on the boards. And no one ever looked at Golden State as a great rebounding team, but they made Kevon Looney look like Moses Malone out there. and that's an issue again tomorrow night. I don't know, how they get around that. They thought that JaVale McGee would be the answer for them in that regard, give them rebounding and rim protection. That lasted about 8 games, and he's been pretty much in mothballs ever since. And they've just had to play this micro ball style that is that gives you very little margin for error. It just does, and you have to be able to make your shots. And if you're not making your shots because you're not rebounding the ball, you're going to wind up on the short end.
Chuck Cooperstein right now on the Morning Roast, shedding some light on the Dallas Mavericks, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. The Dallas Mavericks 28-25, but just one game up on the Golden State Warriors in the loss column. And there's a bunch of teams here, a slew of teams with 26 losses, including the Golden State Warriors. So these two teams met up in the Western Conference Finals. We saw each other November 29th when the Mavericks won by 3. Remember, Curry was called for the late traveling there at the end of the game. What is your scope on the Golden State Warriors? How are you seeing the Warriors? Do you view them still as a title contender?
I don't see it. I don't see it with them. It's always, and the reason is they don't play the defense that they have during their great championship runs, because they turn over the ball way too much. I mean, how they play is a pretty way to play, and and certainly when Curry and Thompson and Poole all have it going, it's absolutely electric. But I don't know how you can turn it over that much and get away with it unless you play top shelf defense. Mm-hmm. And the Warriors don't play top shelf defense anymore. And I don't watch them every night. I mean, I watch them a lot of nights, fortunately, because they're the late game, and I can actually get home after one of our games and see them play. But they're not the same. And until Steve Kerr can fix that, and I don't know if he can fix it, I just don't see that. I just don't see it out of them. They're dangerous because they could get on a 5-game heater or a 6-game heater and knock out a team in the playoffs. But to get through 4 rounds, playing as they have played for most of the year, I don't see that.
Chuck, trade deadline is coming up. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Do you think the Mavs will be looking at anybody? And if so, what are some of the names that you've been hearing?
Well, I think, they'd love to do a deal. They don't have a lot of capital. They don't have their first-round pick to give up, because that goes to New York to complete the Porzingis trade. If it's top 10 protected, so they can't do anything with it. And, without that, I just don't think that there is a deal for them to do that's really splashy. I mean, they may do something on the margins here, but I don't see the deal existing right now. I think their deal comes on draft night, or like right after the draft, after that pick is conveyed, and then I think you could see something really huge, but I just don't see it right now.
Chuck Cooperstein here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. We'll get them out here. You mentioned the Warriors and the turnovers last night in the third quarter, 8 turnovers. The night before, the fourth quarter against the T-Wolves, they go 0 for 5 from the three-point line and turn the ball over 6 times and lose in overtime to a team that didn't have Karl Anthony Towns or Rudy Gobert. Do you think that this season may have went haywire after what happened in training camp between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole? Do you think there's a lot of talk with the Bob Myers stuff? Do you think that was a recipe for disaster coming into the season?
Again, I'm not around the team, so I don't know. I've always loved watching them play. They're my favorite team to broadcast, just because of the joy that they have always played with, and the fact that they were such a great shooting team, and also were such a great defensive team. I mean, they could literally do it all. But I don't know the internal dynamics of their team and why things are the way they are. But certainly on an individual night, we know what they're all capable of.
Right.
But looking at it from 30,000 feet, I've always been amazed that they have played the way they played, and they have been able to get away with it. Because teams don't turn it over as much as they do, and yet still blow people out the way they did. But they did because they played great defense, and they're not playing great defense right now. I mean, look, they let D'Angelo Russell go off. He's not a great three-point shooter by any stretch, but that fourth quarter the other night, he looked like Steph.
No doubt.
They've got to be able to clean a whole bunch of stuff up and do it a lot more consistently, ultimately, for them to get back to where they want to go.
Hey, Chuck, you're not lying about the defense. Put it attack defense, blow-bys, dribble drive penetrations, destroyed the Warriors all season long. They've got to get going on that end of the floor. Chuck, good stuff as well. We'll stop by and say hi tomorrow at Chase Center when the Mavericks come to town. They take on the Warriors on a nationally televised game, 5:30 at ABC. Chuck, thanks for the time.
Appreciate you guys having me. Take care.
Anytime. Chuck Cooperstein, the voice of the Dallas Mavericks.